Het zoeken naar exportmarkten voor fruit en groenten, dat is vaak genoeg een heel groot probleem. Vindt men ook een exportmarkt, dan zijn er ook heel zware eisen welke er wordt gesteld. Vandaar dat het in het leven roepen van een steering committee dan ook heel erg belangrijk is, zodat zij dan samen met de regering kunnen gaan werken naar zaken om dit allemaal te vergemakkelijken. Vandaar dat er na het installeren van een steering committee voor cassave nu ook een steering committee geïnstalleerd is voor groente en fruit. Dit is gebeurd na maanden van workshops, bijeenkomsten en nu is er dan allemaal hiervoor gekozen. We voeren nu naar het volgende verslag waar we spraken met de vertegenwoordiger van FAO SAMAP, de heer Erik Ceballos, die veel meer vertelt over de steering committee, de werkzaamheden die het allemaal zal hebben, maar ook hoe het eruit ziet voor de groente- en fruitmarkt van Suriname en met name om te exporteren.
Today we have the gathering of the value chain platform stakeholders that represent the sectors of fruits and vegetables, those that have export potential. And they gather today for an important decision, which is to select and elect the representatives to the steering committee, which is the body that will help the value chain platform to function, to operate and implement the action plan that they have also developed together. Also today, the stakeholders not only will select the steering committee members and representatives, but also the chair, vice chair and secretariat of the steering committee.
Yeah. And this steering committee, how many members will there be?
The members of the platform agreed to have a steering committee with 9 members, 9 seats, of which 6 will be representatives of the private sector and 3 are representatives of the public sector. The private sector is represented from a broad range of stakeholders, from farmers, processors, exporters, and service businesses providers. And the public sector, of course, the ministries and entities that have an important role in the development of the fruits and agriculture, fruits and vegetable sector. A very important element on this platform is that they have also agreed to allow the participation as observers of other organizations. For example, the FAO itself will be an observer of the process. They invited CAFSA, the Caribbean Agency for Health, Food and Safety, also as an observer. So this steering committee has a different composition from the one that yesterday was decided by the platform of Cassava, for example.
In the steering committee, this time they have also chose international organizations.
Exactly, the international organizations like FAO, IICA, and others are invited to participate as observers, which means that they may ask advice from these organizations, but the decisions are made only by the steering committee members.
All right. And this steering committee also for how long? Years?
The steering committee that will be selected and elected will operate for 1 year. That is again a decision made by the stakeholders of the platform. They open the possibility of a re-election. So if the members did a good job, maybe they will be awarded with a second year, but they will discuss that at the end of the first year. The idea that they have flagged is that they rather have yearly rotations to allow renovation of the membership of the steering committee.
Yeah, and it is the first time that we have a steering committee like this?
This seems to be one of the first that I understand has been established for the fruits and vegetables, in particular subsectors in Suriname. There were further attempts before to coordinate the sector and so on, but as a value chain structure that brings together both the public and the private sector, and from all the segments of the value chain, this is the first experience ever in Suriname for this particular subsector.
Yeah. And if elected, what will be the most important job of this steering committee for the fruit and vegetable?
The most important task that the steering committee will have is to implement the strategic action plan that was developed by the platform, by the stakeholders. They were working in the past 2-3 months on identifying what are the critical issues and problems in both the fruits and the vegetables sector, to improve quantity of production, quality of production, to access markets. So once they identify what are the critical problems, they also identify the solutions. What needs to be done in order to target those problems. And they identified which institution, which members of the platform will play a role in doing something to address those issues. So the steering committee has a big responsibility to ensure that the action plan does not sit as a paper, that it becomes live, and that they need to work in coordination with all the members of the platform in order to ensure a proper implementation. For that, they have also identified and developed an operational plan for 1 year, which will be the focus of the tasks for the steering committee.
But how is the access market for fruit and vegetable for Suriname?
There is a lot of expectation and there is a lot of potential there. There are subsectors and crops that have been growing in the production in the country, and they made efforts to access markets abroad. For example, pineapples, maracuja, not to mention bananas that Suriname was already exporting some of them, but new crops and products. You would have seen today there were displays, for example, of chocolate, processed products already, not just the fresh fruit, but processed products that incorporates in the chocolate maracuja, pineapple, so brings together different subsectors. So there is a strong potential for the sectors, but it depends on whether they will work together. Individually, they may go to some point. If they work together, the chances to go further and farther are bigger and bigger.
Yeah. And what are the problems they face when they want to export?
One of the major challenges that all the exporters face at the beginning, the producers, is that they have very good products and they try and sell some of those products, and when the buyers request more of them, they are facing challenges to produce in the quantity that is required. For example, sometimes they manage to export 1 container and they have a demand for 6 containers, and then they cannot meet that demand. The second problem they have is that they produce good products, but to sustain the quality of that product is very difficult. One time they have very good quality, the second time the quality goes down and is not very sustainable. So those two are significant challenges that the whole sector needs to work around. To do that, of course, they need to invest more in research and development, better varieties of the crops that they want to cultivate. They need to meet the standards for certification, being more organic, less pesticides, and so on and so forth. So those are the specific areas where this platform will be working from now on.
Okay, these are the specific problems they have to work for a solution, and so.
That's correct. There are many others, but they have to prioritize, and that's the other important element of the action plan. That's why it's called strategic, because they focus on those bigger problems that will help the majority. instead of focusing only on few ones that help a few number of people. And that is where the collective discussions and talking to each other in this platform has helped to achieve.
Are there numbers, are there statistics of uh, export of fruit and vegetable, and what is the income?
We have provided to the platform some research that was prepared about the potential of these subsectors for exports. The data shows that the levels of production compared to other countries are, of course, below the capacity, but the demand in other countries are high. So that is what gives the opportunity for the Suriname agriculture sector to look potential opportunities in other markets. Focus on the Netherlands, where lots of the vegetables are produced here, goes to the diaspora from Suriname in the Netherlands. And increasing interest on products or crops like the dragon fruit, that's competitive with other products from other countries as well. So the data is there. It shows that there is potential. But it has been so far not utilized, has not been benefiting yet as it could be. And the reasons for that are those that I mentioned, that sometimes the quantity is not enough, the quality is not a standard, and the sustainability of the efforts. The fact that they work not in cooperation and collaboration makes more limited impact on their incomes as well. In fruits and vegetables, a big problem is to observe the phytosanitary and the food safety standards of the markets where they sell. And that's another area where SAMAP with FAO are supporting the country in order to meet those standards for food safety.
Yeah. And which which vegetables face this problem at this moment?
There are several. There were studies conducted by the Ministry of Agriculture and the MPPO where they identified a number of crops where the levels of substances that are not permitted are above the required levels. I cannot name specific crops at this point, but there are several where Suriname have an export opportunity that are affected by that reason. Not long ago, as you may remember, the EU introduced a list of banned products, including Sopropo, one of the flag exports of Suriname. So like those, there are others that are also at risk. So that's why it's important that the platform members, both the public and the private sector, work together now to address those issues. It's not just an issue or a problem for the Ministry of Agriculture, it's also the role of the producers, how they actually produce their products in a responsible way.